So every once in a while, you have a repair that you're really excited to do because it's something that's really annoying you about your car. And this is one of those repairs. It's up there with the blend door foam repair, where I just wanted to get it done because it was just so annoying. So you can imagine I was excited when I drove to Kurt's to get this thing taken care of. So on my car, I had these watermarks that were on the back side of the gauge cluster. That was there since I purchased the car. I'd cleaned the car obviously once I bought it, and I realized that that could not be wiped off. I saw that when I was purchasing, but I just thought they were on the outside. And so it always bothered me, and I always thought it was probably pretty tough to get in there. And as I did a little research, as we all do, I came across a Help Me DIY video from early on in his first Boxster days, where he took it into his shop and they actually removed that gauge cluster. And it actually was pretty straightforward. So I'm going to run you through that process, how to take it out. Everything went pretty good. We had one surprise we ran into, and then one sort of thing we messed up on a little bit. And I'm going to give you that heads up so that you don't do the same to your car and damage a little piece of the trim there, which you'll see here. So the first thing you need to do to remove this gauge cluster is there's two T20 Torx screws, one on each side of the steering wheel. The first one's located behind the hazard light. And to get to that one, you press the button to initiate the hazard lights. That'll pop that button out a little bit. And then you can grab it and just give it a little force, it'll pop right out. Behind that on the right side, you'll see that T20 Torx screw that you can remove. Now on the left side, it's behind this little speaker grill. We used a trim tool, but I've also seen people take a paper clip and bend it really skinny and stick it through one of those holes, and then you can use it as like a hook and pop this piece out. Now the left side, this is one of the tricky parts that can really get you on this repair. It is highly advised, pretty much mandatory, that you use a magnetic Torx screwdriver. The reason being is you're gonna have to stick that thing pretty deep in there to get to the screw. And as you pull that screw, it's just gonna fall in unless you've got the magnetic screwdriver. You'll see us do that now. So very important so you don't drop that in, and then putting it back in is the same thing. Okay, now you've got those two screws out. Now you can sort of wiggle it loose and pop it out. Now you're not gonna be able to just pull it away because you've got four things you have to unhook. The first thing you have to unhook is the hazard lights. And that is probably the trickiest one of the four. Basically what happens is when you look inside, there's a white square, and then just outside the white square, there's two little black tabs you can pinch. I'm gonna show you this picture of it actually removed so you can see where those tabs are. So it's a tricky thing where you're trying to push these tabs in that you can't really get a grip on and pull forward to disconnect that switch from the connection in the back. And it really is kind of a pain, but just take your time and you can get it. Once you've pulled that out, then you can actually unhook with a little clip the connector, and then that will be loose from the actual cluster that you're pulling out. The next thing you're gonna have to do, and you wanna have a lot of room for it to pull this cluster out, is you're gonna have to unhook the three connections for the instrument panel itself. Now this is where we ran into a surprise. So two of them came out just fine, and the third one was getting stuck. And it turns out that the release that you pull up to release it before you pull it out was actually broken. And that's why we couldn't get it out for a while. The plastic was actually crumbling. It looked like somebody had been in there before, and it just maybe from old age or whatever. But the way you would normally release these is there's a little black sort of lever. You would lift that lever up, and that lever kind of then is the thing that kind of, the lever locks the connection in, but when you pull it up, it's almost like it pushes the connection out. So it's helping you pop that out. But if that lever is broken, now you're in a situation where you've got some plastic that's stuck in there that's in the way. So we almost abandoned this project because it took about 15 minutes of trying, and we didn't want to obviously rip a cable out, break something that's sort of an important connection for the vehicle and might even disable the vehicle if it didn't work. So Kurt said it was my call. It's like, it's your car. It's your call if you want to keep going. But I don't want to be the one responsible if this thing breaks. So we did get it out. I'm glad we did. And we'll see when we put it back together, we put a little piece of electrical tape on there to keep it from coming out. Okay, so now that you've got this removed, it's going to have the instrument cluster and a top portion of the leatherette dashboard. So you take that over and then you'll flip it around and you'll see that there's a few different screws back there, but the only two you have to take out are there's two screws on the left and the right. I believe they are also T20. I didn't check that while we were doing the repair, and I don't want to take the whole thing apart to double check what size they are, but I believe they're also T20. So take out those two screws, and now you'll be able to remove that top portion of the dashboard, the leatherette there, and you can set that aside. You'll see it's pretty dirty under there. You can clean everything up. Now the next part is you need to remove a few clips to pull the actual instrument cluster apart. There's one on each side, and essentially what you'll do is there's different ways you can do it, but what we did is we sort of worked a small flathead screwdriver in from the side, and you can then pop that clip out. And then once that clips out, that's when you're able to separate the face of the instrument cluster with the electronic side, if you will. Now there are some tabs on the top to be aware of. You sort of have to lift those. And then there's one that's actually hidden inside that can sometimes be kind of a pain. In our case, it actually popped out, so we were lucky. So you pull that apart, and now you have it open, as you can see. This is where you can, get in there, start to clean it. Obviously, you want to take care. You don't want to do anything that's going to cause some abrasion on the speedometer side of things. That's just sort of a plastic thing. This is also where some people might change the color of their instrument cluster. You can actually buy an overlay that you can stick on top. That is a new color if you want to go to white. Things like that are possible. They make these aftermarket things. That's obviously not what we're after on this video. So there's two products that Kurt recommended, and I'll show them here on the screen. The first one is a clear base, so it's a little bit better as far as when it dries. It's clear out of the bottle and it's clear to dry. The second one is a common thing for plastics made by Meguiar's, and the only downside to that one is it is a sort of a paste color, and it can dry white if you don't get it completely cleaned out of there. And we were trying really hard not to get any of that onto the black portion of the sort of cover there, but it's actually impossible. Unless you just do the very center as you work that and try and get that to clean out, because there were also some scratches in there that we were trying to take out. And so this stuff helps a little bit with that. So we did use both products. It did end up working well. Now, there were some scratches we couldn't get out, but when it was reinstalled into the vehicle, and I can show you a shot of that here, you cannot see any of those scratches. The angle at which you're viewing that is completely clear. So this certainly was a success, but I do want to mention one thing that I would recommend doing that we did not do that can protect your dash a little bit as you're working on disconnecting some things. So there were some dents that were put into the leatherette dashboard in front of the cluster. And basically it's there's some clips at the bottom of this cluster when you pull it out, and they were basically pushing down and digging into the leatherette on that dashboard. Now, I know that there were some of those spots prior to, but I just wasn't thinking about it as we were behind there trying to get some out. So I'm sure that we contributed at least one or two of those dents. And all you would need to do is just put some sort of a towel there. So once you pull that cluster out, slide a towel or something under there, probably on both sides actually, because it's the same situation on the other side. And that will just protect that. So as you're fussing with that and trying to disconnect everything, you're not gouging and causing damage to your dashboard, which obviously is not great. And then obviously when you're putting this back in, it's just the reverse of what you did. But be aware on that left side of the driver's of the steering wheel, or I suppose if you're right-hand drive carts on the right side, but behind that screen, you want to make sure you have some sort of a magnetic screwdriver to get that in there, because you do not want to drop that screw down in your dash, because that's going to be a huge pain to get out. So I hope this was helpful. It really isn't as bad as you would expect, unless of course you run into some surprises. And I would say also, while you're in there, you can clean some stuff. Like, well, I cleaned up the dash and everything. As you can see, it's really filthy underneath there. And then here's a shot where I've gone in there and I've cleaned everything up. So it's, now's the time to do it if you're going to be in there. So hope this is helpful. It's a really a nice little thing to know how to do, and really not that hard in general. It just have to have a little patience. I think it only took us maybe a total of an hour and a half, and that's with cleaning everything up. So hope this is helpful.